wonderful Roboteers, robot fans, and everyone else that is out there. You are listening to ESC. We are extremely super chill. But right now, we need to have a really lovely conversation about robots. I am your referee for today, Empress Reira. With me are my wonderful, always here hosts.
Hiya, it's Oliver.
And I am Mitch for York. Wah!
And recording for a second time, back for round 2. Don't worry about round 1, that never happened. It's Jimjamatic.
Oh, there. And yes, round 1 did not happen. And if you ever mention round 1, then something bad will happen, maybe.
That is the least threatening threat that ever did that.
I'm not very good at threatening.
So, guys, we're going to be talking about another thing about, something not quite happening. Talking of failed attempts, we're going to talk about robots that didn't quite make it to the arena. So, robots that, might have applied to, say, Robot Wars or BattleBots, but didn't quite make it in. Maybe they didn't get finished in time. The budget was too small. Maybe they weren't, didn't qualify. Whatever it may be, we are talking about all those robots that made their Roboteers go back to the drawing board. And to do so, we're actually talking about robots of those teams that did qualify, or also robots as well that have a lot of information behind them. Did anyone in particular want to start?
I don't mind starting, if that's okay.
Straight in with a guest. Okay, so who have you brought to the table?
They've brought the robot Pendragon to the table.
Oh, okay. And what did Pendragon not qualify for?
It failed to qualify for Series 5, but they also had a robot that didn't qualify for Series 4 as well, but this is a completely brand new robot for Series 5.
Fantastic. Okay, you have not 3 seconds. That would be awful.
Oh, God.
3 minutes on the clock.
Well, it's still more time than Pendragon got in the arena, so...
Hey, now, no, none of that. Save that banter for after the 3 minutes, Mr. Oliver.
You're not the evil dog anymore.
I consider myself told off.
That is your first warning. Yellow card. That's how the sports balls work, right?
Yeah, it's like
oh no, I'm getting warnings again.
I will just point out, I probably sound completely and utterly off my rocker today due to the fact that I'm extremely tired, so decided to have a all-natural energy drink before we recorded. So I'm drinking we are not sponsored by this, innocent smoothie called Bolt from the Blue, which is a familiar name.
Does the innocent smoothie Bolt from the Blue go to the arena?
Is there a cake of it?
Yes. Because remember, the cake, the game piece, and now the smoothie all go to the arena.
Fork approved.
If the robot was in the arena with all 4 of them, it would still come last.
Oh, wow. Okay. 3 minutes on the clock. Are you ready?
I'm ready whenever be.
Let's get this going. Go.
Right, so Pendragon, the reason why I've chosen this one is because, well, everyone loves Cassius, right? Everyone remembers Cassius. Everyone else remembers Cassius too.
I hope so.
Didn't get as far as the previous version, but still very memorable nonetheless, and that kind of see-through look to it. And I feel Pendragon seems to invoke the same kind of feelings as that. It's got a very similar kind of front-forward, flipping design. It has the little Cornish logo on it. Appropriate, very important. And it's one of those few robots. Like, I've covered a decent amount of robots in my series of robots that didn't make it into the main series. And out of a lot of them, this is probably one of the most competent ones I've seen. Because there are some you see that are just kind of weird and experimental, a bit off-looking. They wouldn't have got in the main series probably against a semi-competent robot. But this is one of those robots I see where I look at it and I wonder why it didn't get in. And there are things on the wiki, people saying like, Rutherford Dougal technically beat it. Yes, Rutherford Dougal did actually win the battle against it, but it didn't actually hurt any of Pendragon's innards, and also, despite the sources saying that it got lost drive on one side, it actually stayed continually moving out the arena. And Shunt was able to axe it and not hurt it either. Their hopes were only dashed basically because of a combination of tiredness and not swapping out the batteries properly, so doing an evil wheel from Series 4.
I can relate to both of those.
So the robot itself wasn't to blame per se. It's all again like Evil Wheel in Series 4, where it was more the team just not paying attention as much, kind of let them down in a way. And they also wanted to let something like Rutherford Dougal in, because let's face it, it's a funny looking robot, and it always will be, which is a good thing. I like seeing fun robots in the main arena, but then I want to see a good front hinge flipper as well, because all we had after Cassius 2 was Firestorm and Firestorm. In terms of major ones that made any actual impact after Cassius 2, after Rexguard left the series. And Pendragon is just a robot I would love to see in the main series. It was sturdy, it was able to self-right whilst Dead Metal was on top of them. They can actually self-write. There's a picture on the wiki of it self-writing. And I've even got a comment from one of the people who made the robot on my episode of Made It. He even said that Rex Garrett actually gave him some tech advice, and Roger Plant called it a possible good fighter, to quote Roger Plant. So it's actually a competent robot with a lot of potential. And this robot still exists. There's pictures of it from 2020. They're hoping to bring it to RoboNerd, apparently. So the thing still is there, and it looks really good. And if it was upgraded with slightly more better armor and modern tech, possibly, this thing could be a really fun front hinge flipper. And it's just a shame this thing didn't get through, mainly because of a few unfortunate errors on the team's part, which is understandable given, you know, the long hours of working on a robot.
3 minutes are up.
Oh,
However, please continue your point.
I was just going to say, like, you know, it's understandable these things can happen. So vote Pendragon. Yay. There we
It is
go.
open to the floor, guys. Open to the floor.
I have to be honest and say, if you've got Rex Garrett giving tech advice and Roger Plant saying, hey, this is a good fighter, builders behind Cassius and Wheelie Big Cheese, I think you're on the right path. And looking at this, you know, you definitely get Cassius 2 vibes, or Cassius vibes in general, but I really wish this had qualified. I think it's a real shame it lost to Rough Dougal. It looks good, and the fact it's still going, the fact that they're possibly planning on bringing it to RoboNerd, I think this could be a good flipper for the future of robot combat. I hope it lasts for a good while longer.
You look at that picture on the wiki of it self-writing. That's insane.
It is
The height it's
beautiful.
getting off the ground.
I'd also like to point out interesting fact bomb from your referee here, because that's what I'm allowed to do. Captain of Pendragon, Mark Riverin, had a huge hand in helping to build St. Aggro, which did get on. So
St. Aggro is a robot I really do love, you know, particularly in Series 7 when it began to have some success. And then, of course, it's gone on to be Maelstrom for Team Shock and continue to turn up in the live scene. So some part of Cornish robotics has found its way out into the world.
and hey, Orc, it fought Warhog. Mitch, it fought Warhog.
Wait, it did?
Yes.
Where?
St. Aggro.
How?
St. Aggro fought
Oh,
Warhog.
okay. I thought
We
you
were
were
talking about St. Aggro for a brief moment.
Sorry, I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. Wait, when did Pendragon fight Warhog?
That I'm sorry, but that very much would be a Pendragon win there.
I
It-
mean,
it
I'm
would.
not denying that. I'm not denying it.
I am going to point out, though, the captain does sound... I don't know, there seems to be conflicting accounts of that Rough Dougal battle. The wiki mentions something about Rough Dougal putting it in the pit, which might have been a different battle, might have not. But the captain seems to think that Pendragon lost on a judge's decision or lost out on getting into the series because the producers thought Dougal would be more entertaining because it would catch fire, which I can kind of understand. But then... this robot, it shows promise, and it gets unlucky because it's not going to be entertaining for TV.
I mean, to quote Mark Riverin specifically here, Dougal pierced the polycarbonate but stopped when it hit the suspension components, which were T6 alloy, and didn't stop the robot from working. We both drove out of the arena.
Because, yeah, it also had suspension like Cassius 2, which was an interesting choice, but I guess, you know, I'm not really sure why they would go for that at this stage, because you haven't really got the sort of trial segments any longer.
It's interesting because both you and myself, Oliver, have suffered at the hands of, I say suffered, that's putting it really, really heavily, at the hands of producers not choosing us for a series, being Bugglebot Series 2. And I think the producers look for quite a lot of things when picking robots to go in. And there's a lot of points here on the wiki and a lot of points that have been read in other places as well, that Pendragon, though would have been a competitive robot for the series, it being matched up against Rough, Robot Wars was more of the fun show at the time. It was, you know, the fun equivalent to BattleBots, I suppose, in a way.
I can't help but feel a little bit bitter about this, though, because I think Pendragon versus Gemini would have been a great fight.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed.
I think it's something that Pendragon could have won quite easily. A comparison I want to make here is to Gravedigger,
Oh, good choice.
which
yeah.
you know is another sort of similar Cassius clone that had a lot of success in Series 3 and then kind of faltered going forward. It's not necessarily the most entertaining robot to look at or to watch. It's a bit brown.
I just noted that the citation on the wiki for Pendragon going to RoboNerd, the citation is private correspondence between Pendragon and friend of the podcast, Anthony Murney.
who I was actually just talking to earlier today about this. I noticed that on the wiki. I was like,
We
really?
should poke him about that when we have him record later.
I already have. He sent me pictures, not only the wiki pictures of 2020 Pendragon, which I think were mostly provided to him. He sent me pictures of their Mechanoids entry because they went
Gomez.
Gomez. I've got pictures of that, which I can send to you guys. And he has been in such correspondence with the team that he has written or corrected most of
Oh,
this.
wow.
So yeah, Anthony he's very into researching robots in his spare time.
I feel that like we've got the perfect two guests on back to back to take away from the actual episode for a moment. You know, we've got Jim, who's also Jimjamatic, who's known for having a mass amount on research and information, and Anthony, who does the same. So it's friends of the podcast, absolutely. So we should probably discuss where we want to put Pendragon.
I mean, circling back to Gravedigger, for me, it's a question of whether or not it's going to be a Series 3 Gravedigger, going to be boring and, in terms of looks and somewhat successful, or if it's going to be less successful at all. The record of fights that it's had on the wiki is fairly lackluster. I don't know how many
Slim.
fights it actually did have, so it's quite difficult to judge.
I'd be interested to see how a bot of this design would do in the modern meta, be that the UK live scene meta or perhaps even BattleBots meta. It's a design you do not see very much in the modern era.
I mean, the closest I can think of it is Team Shock have got a front hinge, haven't they? Earthquake.
And if you're talking about sort of low to the ground flippers, you've also got things like Bullfrog.
Again, yeah.
But again, I feel that, trying to not put my opinion too much into this as the judge, Pendragon would be a very interesting build for the modern meta. And then perhaps, maybe, people at RoboNerd can convince them of that.
That would be very cool.
Do your part, ESC listeners.
I think
ESC wants you.
ESC wants you. I think it's also important to note that one of Pendragon's opponents, well, a lot of them were unknown robots, or I guess just like no one really notable that we know about, but one of its opponents was actually Panic Attack. And that's another cool thought, in my opinion, because
Well, especially Series 5 Panic Attack, which was about the peak that robot ever reached.
admittedly, I think Pendragon had issues in that fight near it, and they were apparently throwing opponents left, right, and centre.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And this is a very competently made robot. It's the team's second build. There's a lot of engineering that's gone into this, and you look at it, and it just looks very nicely made. It's very tidy, and it would have been great to see this, even if there was footage of it competing more on the live scene back then.
Very professional looking.
Yes.
Absolutely.
All right then, guys. So, moving on to voting.
I guess I'll start. I think, honestly, it's hard to judge a robot that, we've not seen, like all the other robots we've judged, but considering the accounts, like witness accounts and Roger Plant and Rex Garrett fight records, I think I'm very happy to put this into the arena. I think this had a lot of potential and possibly still does. Hopefully we see it in combat very soon.
Okay, moving on.
I mean, I would love to see if this thing can still get up and running, and there can be some kind of carefully arranged fight with maybe Onslaught or another robot of the period that's still running at RoboNerd. That would be fantastic to see. But until then, there's not much bad that I can say about this robot. However, it is Cornish. And as a proud Devonian, I don't feel like I can confidently put a Cornish robot in the arena that I've not seen more of. So I'm going to put Pendragon in the pit.
Wait, what? Hold up, this is a twist.
What a twist!
Okay.
James, what do you think?
After that top 10 anime betrayal, I mean, this thing can self-right, it can flip, it can attack, it can apparently self-right under dead metal, so I'm definitely want to put this thing into the arena. I know, bias. I definitely want to see this thing in.
Screw you for trying to betray me.
Well, I mean,
For anyone out there listening who is not from the UK, the counties of Cornwall and Devon border each other and have a pretty fierce rivalry. So, scones.
it did kill the chances that this wonderful robot had to go to the arena, however. And I mean, I think that we've made the right decision in putting it up there.
Hey, if this robot was from any other county, then
This is county.
absolutely.
As the only non-Brit in the call, I'm just going to shrug and not understand. Okay.
It's like I'm trying to think of a good analogy. I don't know politics from that part of the world well enough. It's like a Russian robot.
Oh. Yep, okay. Yeah, I'm with you. For the record, listeners, Reira is from Ukraine, and hence a Russian bot, I would have the same reaction.
So it went 2 and 1, right? Just
It went 2 and 1.
fantastic.
Whoop.
I don't mind taking the next
All
the
right,
next bot.
go for it.
All right, my time.
Oh no, you're telling us who you brought first.
I have bought 259, but specifically, you'd be thinking 259 competed? Well, not its successor, 259H for horizontal.
Okay, and what did it not qualify for?
It did not qualify because there wasn't anything to qualify for.
Okay.
It was built for a potential Robot Wars Series 8 it was built for Series 7, but wasn't finished in time, and was going to be finished off for a Series 8, but that never happened.
Okay, you have 3 minutes on the clock, starting now.
Okay, let's start by talking about 259. That's the one that most people know about. Yeah, maybe it's a little bit overhyped. People think it's, one of the greatest bots of the classic series, and when you look back at its record, that's not quite so true. It is a wonderful moving platform for a big weapon that got in some very, very impressive hits, largely on robots with large ground clearance, like Infernal Contraption and Wild Thing 2. But I don't think that Wild Thing 2, for instance, is as bad a robot as people say, and it did very well, even if it was a bit of a glass cannon, and competed throughout 2 fights in Series 6, and then another 2 fights in the German special, and I think more than capable of sort of showing its colours and proving that there was a lot of potential in that design. Now, Adam Clark never won to be left resting on his laurels with robots like Wowa under his belt. He went away and designed 259H, which is basically Apex. We don't know exactly what the bar was going to be, or the disc was going to be. They've put the old 259 disc on the chassis, but it was potentially going to be a bar or something like that. And I think if Robot Wars had continued into a Series 8, these are the kind of robots we would be looking to see. The fact that 2 out of the 4 robots in Series 7 in the final were spinners, vertical being Exterminator and horizontal being Typhoon 2. I think we were going to be looking at spinners really coming into their own in Robot Wars in a way that they hadn't since Hypnodisc's introduction in Series 3. And we were seeing, a more of a rise of spinners in Series 7. And I think 259H was moving into that space. And I would have been very excited to see what it would have done if we had a classic Series 8, because it's delivering all of that power that 259, the original, had, but it's doing it on a horizontal basis, which would hopefully mean more concealed weapon belts, which means that it might not lose in as embarrassing a way as it did in the Series 6 main competition. That's about all I've got to say on this one. What do you think, guys?
All right, you have 30 seconds, but opening it up, yep.
Yeah.
Okay, opened up.
This is a very interesting design compared to the original 259, mainly because he decided to go straight from vertical to horizontal. The Apex comparison is definitely apt. I do love this because one thing I like about Adam Clark's robots is that there's a lot of unique qualities in a lot of them. Maybe less so with his early designs, which are just, wedges, but this one definitely seems to invoke that kind of unique style to it. My only problem being, I think, maybe given how, while the disc was good in Series 6, it wasn't necessarily highly damaging, per se. Because a lot of time it just seemed to fly. A lot of the robots that got flown away from it just kind of got, just flown away without too much damage on them. I do wonder how effective it is if it's going to be horizontal. That's what I thought.
Interestingly, this is the second Adam Clark robot we've had on the podcast, with, of course, Vector of Armageddon being on our RoboNerd special, which was sat on top of 259's disc, of course, at RoboNerd.
It was. According to the wiki here, we've got a new disc was planned but not completed. So clearly they were going to do something different. And there's a little wireframe mock-up that he's made back in sort of the early days of sort of designing this robot, which did have a large bar on it. So I don't know what he would have done. And of course, as you say, that would have very much affected the capability and effectiveness of the robot. But the original 259 was no pushover. It did some pretty significant damage to Judge Shred, which, okay, it's maybe not the most durable bot in the competition, but yeah, like I say, it was his first foray into the world of spinners, and to make a robot that's got the
It
reputation
wasn't
that it
actually his
has.
first spinner. His first spinner would have been Bone had it qualified.
Another
non-qualified
unqualified
robot from Series.
robot.
And then Twister from Series 4, which is like a full body spinner. So
Oh yeah, Twister as well.
I stand corrected then. But the first spinner that he made that got on to the show, it
Really
left
did.
quite a mark. And I think whatever he would have done with the follow-up, having not only 259, but like you say, Bone and Twister under his
Bone
belt,
Twister.
then
No, ignore me. Carry on.
God, what would happen if Bone got on and
Oh.
fought Firestorm
Oh,
versus
for
Bone?
fuck's sake. Ugh.
Even when you go back into like some of like Adam Clark's robots, like Wobot in particular, I definitely think is what his most unique, oddest robot he made, because it's just like this giant claw on a robot. And while it didn't work that well, it at least was interesting to look at and was like something different. And I do feel like maybe this version of 259 could possibly do the same thing. Usually his builds tend to be reliable. I mean, 259, the only time it got its arse properly handed to it was against Fluffy, and that's not something to be, to moan about. It's Fluffy. Yeah, that thing took out a few decent robots and almost beat Pussycat.
The only reason it was taken out against Fluffy is because it got flipped onto its side, if I recall.
Yeah, I think 'cause it caught like the blade at the right moment. It tossed the whole robot over, and then it just got completely shattered on one side. Like the belt was ripped, the like one of the side panels flew off or something, or was coming off.
Which you'd hope would be something that would be fixed with this new version.
I'm looking at a picture of the wiki now, and there's like a whole drive chain flying out. Like one of the wheels is slightly bent. I think it's a sad sight. There's a picture in the pit, and one of its wheels is almost in half.
And looking at the new version, the wheels look to be more well covered than the previous
People
iteration.
shouldn't cover their wheels.
Or if it had been finished.
Don't cover your wheels. Let people get to those. They're delicious.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Jonathan Pierce gave the best advice. Don't bring wheels into the arena.
This is all the same guy who called Killertron the grand finalist, so...
Reira, you're a ref. I'll get the spray out. Stop it. No more wheels. Ref.
Damn it. I just want to eat.
That's
Fine.
Get back to your pedestal, whatever it is called, your chair, ref.
I mean, I'm currently sat on my bed. Does that count?
No. Anyway, I guess I'll use the opportunity now that I've calmed the Empress down to talk a bit myself. I honestly think that Adam Clark is probably one of the, what's the word I'm after? Underrated builders, because he built a lot of different stuff. Nothing really kind of was the same. You had Corporal Punishment, you had Vector of Armageddon, you had Bone, which was very similar to 259 in a way, with it being this big vertical spinner. And hell, if Bone had been in third series, that would have been a huge kind of precedent for everyone else. It would have been our very own nightmare. I can't say much about it because we don't know how strong it was.
It might have just been another daisy chopper.
That's
an insult to Bone.
But the thing I'm looking at with 259H is that, I know that it's using the normal 259 disc, but I'm kind of getting Apex vibes from it. And I think I said this before when we last recorded. Oh shit, wait, I'm not going to mention that. Oh god, I'm going to die. But yeah, I think 259H would have been a very interesting, different beast, because like you said, in Series 7, two of the big spinners was a shell spinner, and then you had Exterminator, which had gone from an axe to a vertical spinner, and we saw how powerful that was. I think 259H could have got some good hits, but
nope.
I'm
hit the
looking at
John
the
Reed
Apex
alarm.
side of it as well.
Someone hit the John Reed alarm. I'm glad that you waited to say that, though, Mitch.
Wait, why?
You waited for the good hit.
Thank you, I try.
I mean, this guy's built robots that have knocked Shunt out of sumo. You can't discredit the man for making effective machines. And as much as 259 maybe had some, gremlins along the way, all good roboteers have gremlins. And I think that I would have loved to have seen what 259H would have been able to do. However,
I think it would have been like Ariadne, in that it was either gonna hit amazingly hard or blow up in a plume of smoke.
I would find C either.
Catch fire in the test box before the tournament starts, like Ariadne did.
F in the chat for our Empress.
The good news is that Holy Diver is already looking more reliable. So,
I mean, of course, when you base it off of the greatest robot in the world.
I mean.
Hang on. This is a Robot Wars podcast. I need to be doing a Jeremy Clarkson impression. Greatest robot.
How has it taken us, insert number here, number of episodes, for you to do a terrible Jeremy Clarkson impression?
Clarkson!
I need to go and get the machete.
Wait, what was that about again? Was it about me referencing something detonator getting blattered into pieces?
We're going
Take the
to
pancake.
voting now. We're going to voting. 259H people, where are we putting this wonderful Apex-like super disc?
Unsurprisingly, I want to put it straight to the arena, to the top of the Top Gear test track leaderboard. I think it was great.
I mean, for me, I would love to put this thing in the arena as well, mainly because, if it works, it'll be really effective and awesome. If it doesn't work and goes out, flying into pieces like the original 259 did, at least it would look good. So and also it's just really cool looking, so I would definitely put this thing into the arena.
Yeah, you know what? I think I'd put it in the arena too. Adam Clark has made some great stuff, and I think 259H would have just been the cherry on top of the cake. Just
Can anyone
chef's kiss
remember if
into the arena.
Vector went to the arena as well? Is his robot?
No.
Are they joining each other, or have we separated his robot?
Yes.
Somebody get up
3-2.
3-2? Yeah.
3-2.
Okay. So it turns out if you bring an Adam Clark robot, you're basically guaranteed to go into the arena.
I mean, if Adam Clark is at Robo Nerd this year, if it happens, I would love to
I
ask him
think
more
that
about
he's-
this thing and what his plans were for it.
Yeah, because I completely missed him there. I was like, God damn, I
3-0
should've seen him.
win to the wonders that is Apex before Apex, the wonder of 259H. However, we have one more person.
I would just like to point out very quickly, gone and followed an archived link to the old Pendragon website or something like that. I don't know where I've ended up, but some very old part of the
no,
internet.
not that part of the internet again.
And if you would like to fight Pendragon, be aware that it is tuning up, ready for Robot Rage at Debenham, and they can manage a 20-meter, 100-kilogram throw so far. And if you would like to get in contact with the team captain, contact Mark Revan at eggconnect.net.
What?
I've never even heard of
I-
Egg Connect.
I
This
kid you
sounds
not.
Very
Egg Connect.
90s.
It's not as 90s as that old website. I think I can't remember. It's one of those like middleweights from like Extreme. I think it was RC Warrior. I think it was called. The website's still up from like Series 5, and it has a poll saying who will win Series 5, and I put him the disc for the lols because someone's got to vote him the disc.
Oh, no.
It's still up. Like, it's on. Actually, hold on. I need to actually check if it's still up now because this is going to bug me. If it is. Yeah, it's still up. The Warrior website's from 2003, 2002.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm on it. Holy crap. Yay, this is real. Holy crap. Anyway, we should probably doing the podcast, shouldn't we?
Mitch, our wonderful orc, what have you dug up from the past today?
Well, I decided, because I like being a little nuisance, as always, I thought I'd bend the rules a
Uh-oh.
bit. So, instead of bringing a robot that didn't qualify, I've brought a robot that did qualify. Now, I know what you're
Wait a
thinking.
minute, that's
Hang
against
on.
the rules!
It's illegal.
That's illegal.
I made the rules. You don't say. Look, I host Orcs Rules. I make the rules there, so it's fine, right? Yeah, cool.
Objection?
So overruled. So you may be wondering, well, Mitch, what you're playing at? But when you realise this team had robots that didn't qualify, and 2 of them did, I'm bending the rules to actually use these non-qualified robots to actually push this one that did into the arena in the sky. I'm talking. I'm talking about.
My head hurts.
I'm talking about Team Crazy 88, and a robot I'm focusing on is Hodaf the Bad.
Okay, sure.
It's not Xbox, so okay.
Oh wait, shit! Sorry.
I mean, technically, he is bringing Xbox.
Yes, technically,
God.
I'm bringing
Failed
them
to
all.
qualify with. Hang on a goddamn minute. Failed to qualify with Xbox.
Yeah, I've covered this on my series. I've done my time.
I don't know if anyone has heard
Should
the
we
show.
start your 3 minutes, Mitch? Because let's talk about it.
No, hang on, wait. I've got. Has anyone heard of the show Megas XLR? It was like a
Vaguely.
cartoon series with a big robot car on the top. No.
Oh yes, I remember that series.
Okay, I think no one else will get the joke. I feel really old. Let's start my 3 minutes.
I'm just looking at Xbox for a bit. That doesn't look like my
I did the same thing. I was like, where's the robot?
Your 3 minutes starts now. We'll talk about Xbox 360 after this. Go.
Okay, so Hodaf the Bad, in my opinion, is one of the nicer looking robots that lost in Series 1. Now, I've had a few people say that Hodaf was terrible, but considering a lot of the Series 7 Round 1 losers, I actually think Hodaf the Bad wasn't too bad. Hodaf could self-right, it's missed a lot of flips, it looks nice, I've said that already, but it was also in such a stacked rumble. It was facing Gravity, 4, and Hydra. Now, Gravity made its debut, was sending robots left, right, and centre. Hydra had proved itself by this point as a very good flipping robot with the axe to match. And 4 hadn't hit its stride yet. I want to say that at the end of this battle, before Gravity had flipped Hydra into the camera and into the audience and children screaming, and God, there was a lot of blood everywhere. 4 wasn't really moving. 4 was literally turning in one circle, while Hodaf the Bad was moving very slightly. I feel Hodaf was screwed. Now, you look at the other robots that this team has made. Xbox, which is literally a box. Pussycat, if it was a box, and without the saw, just grabbing claws
Yeah.
instead. Big Fish, which, it's a fish, I guess, you know. Crazy Coop, which qualified, but I'm going to talk more about that in my defense after this. And then Ironheart 88, which was a flipper, but as far as I'm aware, hasn't been too successful either and wasn't picked for series, I believe it was.
Series 9
Hang
for
on, I'll
Ironheart.
find it. Series 9, thank you. I think, honestly, Hodaf the Bad is probably the best robot they've made. And okay, this is going to sound harsh, that's not saying much. But I do feel this robot got quite unlucky. I feel this should have gone through instead of 4. I feel 4 only got through because of the hammer shots, but it wasn't moving properly at the end. Which I don't know how that heat would have gone. I think it would have faced Lightning next, which it would have lost to most likely. But
Lightning or 13 Black, I think.
yeah, I think it was Gravity versus 13 Black, so it would have been Hodaf versus Lightning if it went that same way. Yeah, I feel out of all the robots this team has made, all the non-qualified robots that failed to qualify and not selected in terms of Ironheart 88's case, and even compared to Crazy Coop, which Oliver said to me earlier that he thinks that did better, but oh boy, I've got some things to say about that. I genuinely think Hodaf was the best robot they made out of everything else, and I think, if anything, it deserves a pity place in the arena. Thank you.
Right? You are actually slightly over, but you were midway through a point, so I sort of let you finish. You got a few seconds over.
I want to talk
wanna
about Xbox.
Xbox. I think all of us want to talk about. So, where do you put the discs?
It's like
I've
right. Okay, so remember in Series 4 where Razer was stuck against the wall, Pussycat came up behind him. Xbox was the result.
Oh.
I still don't understand. Where do I plug this into my TV? Does this play Mass Effect?
Also, I would love to think of an alternate universe where the Xbox robots continued to be a series, and you had like a shockwave style rotary lifter called Xbox 360,
oh my god.
or even a spinner.
I've heard this robot plays the Halo theme really badly.
Sounds like memes. We have a recorder version of things.
Please, I
Record a Halo.
now need just the picture of Xbox from the wiki, just with like a really shitty flute version of the Halo theme playing.
Like,
I mean,
oh, sorry, go on.
looking at it, it is the shape of the new Xbox that they're releasing later this year, next year, whenever it is. So they kind of predicted
I
the
feel
future
like
there.
I feel like that's a robot that just hasn't been chiseled out of it yet.
Is it like that episode of SpongeBob where he just like knocks it, like, and he hits the block one time? This beautiful like man like figure comes out of it.
Oh, and should we talk about?
In fact, even for the episode I covered it in, I photoshopped it onto Master Chief's like gun. I couldn't think of anything else to do with it.
Guys, can you have a look at the insides of Xbox? It looks big and unwieldy, but things are pretty packed in there.
In here, there's so much stuff.
Yeah.
Why is there so much in here?
And it's that front and rear hydraulic jaws. So it's got these 4 sets of wheels at the back, I guess to kind of make it invertible. But you'd think they might be going for the kind of Pussycat thing, but they're not.
Because
Because because it's got jaws on the back.
Oh my
Oh,
god!
dear.
I mean, I don't mean any
You know what-
disrespect to people.
You know what else is slightly annoying? Sorry, James. You know what else is slightly annoying? The fact that they've got the two sets of jaws. One of them is horizontal, one of them is vertical. If they had them both going the same way, then at least when you looked at it from one angle, it would actually make an X, and you could get the point of the name. But no,
I've,
Oliver's getting annoyed. I'm a
I
bit
feel-
scared.
I'd also really love that the only trivia point on this in the entire wiki is, although the Xbox games console had been announced at the time of the robots build process, it would not be released in the UK for over a year. So what's that meant to mean? That it would be fine?
It was delayed because they saw this robot. We're like, oh no, we can't be associated with this stuff. Fuck that.
This is also, I noticed they have a robot called Big Fish.
Yeah, which is
And
interesting.
the picture of it, there's a modified version of it on the wiki. And if everyone has seen Robot Wars, that looks like my robot platypus, but like the bad version of it.
Oh, God,
Like,
I
you
know
know,
what you
like we have.
I know exactly what you
Like
mean.
one says we have platypus at home, and there it is.
I will make that meme and put that in the edit.
Oh, thanks.
Yes. Oh, what the fuck?
But like, I'm about to say before though, I have. I don't mean
but
anything bad in people who made these robots, but Xbox is just one of it's sort of like on the lines of like Binky. It's one of those robots that irritates me on the design concept. Like it's like it took Pussycat and took everything advantageous and useful about it and made it into a box.
I'd like to do something
Instead.
special here, as this is a unique way of bringing these to the arena, Mitch. I feel that you should have to put up with your choice here. So, with the permission of everyone else in here, we're going to hold 3 votes. One for Xbox, one for Big Fish, and one for Hodaf the Bad.
Wait,
Hey,
hang on.
3 votes. They've got more than 3
these
robots.
are the
Reira.
3 that we've discussed. The 3 that we've mainly discussed, okay?
Wait, well,
I haven't brought up Crazy Coupe 88 yet. I wanted to
Fine,
talk
we'll
about
do
that
5 votes. We'll put all of their robots somewhere.
apart from ISM, because we don't know anything about.
oh, wait,
it.
hang on, wait. I can do this. Right. So ISM, right? It's apparently a robot that failed to qualify for Series 4. There you go. Talk.
No, we're doing 5. We're going to find a home for Xbox.
There's no picture of ISM anyway. So.
No, exactly.
Firstly, with Xbox, this thing failed to qualify for Series 5. Now think about the things that got into Series 5.
Tartan Terror,
Juggernaut 2, for instance.
Tartan Terror,
Tartan Terror.
Gazundabot,
Which-
Hippopotamus,
Which Napalm was in Season 5?
the shitty second one.
The shitty one.
The one that got pushed
Oh,
into the arena by Shun because it broke down for the
N2.
Annihilator.
You mean my
And so-
favourite one?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
the one that somehow beat Gemini by doing absolutely nothing and letting
Hey,
Gemini
I
kill it.
did
The
play
one
it
where they
once. I was-
The
I was
one where they actually made improvements to the robot? Sure, thanks, guys.
Now that we've covered this robot, moving on. Crazy Coupe 88. As Mitch was saying, at the start of the episode tonight, before we started recording, he was telling me his plan to bring all of these robots. And I said, nah, I actually think Crazy Coupe 88 is a better robot. Why do I think that? Because neither of them got very far, let's be honest. And Crazy Coupe, it doesn't have the same aesthetic charm, should we say, to put it nicely, that its predecessor had. But I do want to point out, as stacked as that opening rumble was in Series 7, of a 5-minute fight, we saw Hodaf do 2 things: get hit by Thor and self-right. And at the end of those 5 minutes, and we didn't even see the full fight, the judges determined that Hodaf hadn't done enough. But this is a robot coming in with 2 weapons, a spinning disc and a flipper. By contrast, Crazy Coupe 88, it was fairly speedy, and actually when you focus on that one specifically in the fight, it's pretty controlled. It hits Gabriel's wheels, okay, probably not going to do very much, but they didn't know that at the time. It gets hits in on Beast, and it's only killed by venturing into dead metal. So we get some sparks, and the team themselves said they were going for sort of a rat rod racer look, and they pull it off to an extent. I'm not saying that the robot deserved any better than what it got, but if they decided to continue with this design philosophy and bulked up the bar, lost that disc
interestingly,
at the back, rather than
they
going over
did.
to a flipper.
But
I
it's
think-
not owned by them anymore. So Tyrone Ellis went on to build another machine called War Dog, which was like a weirdly stretched out version of Tombstone, which most of us will actually recognize nowadays as Deadbod.
Yep.
Yep.
Like, yo, this team built Deadbod, which is a really solid robot.
It is.
I am turned by that.
I-
Also, Deadbod, friend of the podcast.
That sums it up,
Dang.
really. I think it was more effective than Hodaf.
Go
Come
on.
at me, Mitch.
I
Oh,
will
James,
come at you
James
by
was about to say
saying-
something about Coupe as well.
Oh, sorry. Go on.
I was literally gonna say, like, also referencing our discussion for the podcast. I think it's fine. It's it's a lunchbox on wheels with 2 spinners. It's
Yeah,
fine.
it's definitely a piece of gardening.
Nothing wrong with it.
equipment. I have
Yeah,
seen.
I mean,
I've seen
I'm not
this for
saying-
sale in my local B&Q.
this is coming from someone who knows every robot from like series 1 to 3 off the bat, who shouldn't do that. I forgot this thing. I had to check what it looked like. I actually didn't remember it in the series.
I'm not saying it's great, but it's not the worst thing that entered Series 8.
No, because there is
The kegs.
Sweeney
The
Todd.
kegs. The kegs.
Sweeney Todd.
Kegs.
The kegs didn't enter Series 8.
Awesome.
Rara.
They were
And the
Series
kegs are
9.
awesome.
They were Series
They were series 10.
No,
They
they
were
were Series
10.
10.
They can't have been 10 because they were the first match Concussion had
That was
in
In Series
9.
10.
Oh god, we're going to argue now.
I'm just
Go on the wiki, look up the kegs.
Season 10.
This is definitely
kegs
definitely
were-
series 10.
I will take.
Yeah, because Concussion went against Thor, not Twisted Metal, Heavy Metal, the original Thor one that died in like 1 second, and Chimera 2. That was series 9.
May I make my defense?
Yes.
Okay, so I honestly think that Hodaf, like, we didn't see the full match. Okay, I'll give you that, but I don't think it was a 5-minute match because of how that match ended. It was ended early because of the gravity flip to the camera, and for some reason the fight wasn't restarted compared to every other fight which got restarted. That one wasn't, and I do
Strange.
feel, sadly, that's a bit of a screw.
Is that because they'd done most of the fight at that point anyway?
Maybe, but would they have done it if that was the case? How do I word this? Like, even if there's a bit of time left, I feel you should still use that time.
Is it worth getting everyone back in for 30 seconds?
Like, okay, forget Hydra. Screw Hydra. The Hydra was out the arena. As much as I love Hydra as a robot, it had been eliminated. But I think if they hadn't have stopped the time and if it carried on, 4 was still in the arena, Hodaf was still there, 4 was in there twice, Mitch, well done. Gravity was still there. I think it would have been fair to see what was left, because Gravity would have still worked, 4 was in circles, and Hodaf, as far as I'm aware, as I could tell, Hodaf was still slightly moving. And I think that's important to note. Whereas here, as much as Crazy Coop got a hit in, it actually died fairly quickly as well. It just ran into Dead Metal. Dead Metal got it out like a light. At least Hodaf can say that it was moving slightly.
Self-righted.
And it's self-righted as well. And my point is that Crazy Coop may have had 2 spinning weapons, and oh yes, that's great for modern series or whatever, but I feel Hodaf wasn't the best round 1 loser, but it wasn't the lowest of the low either. There was a lot worse in Series 7.
Scary go round.
Scary go round.
I mean, I
Iraq,
think we're both making the same points about the two respective robots. So I think we can just sum up Team Crazy 88 by just saying they're not the best, but not the worst. They're fairly competent.
My only argument about the 2 weapons thing is that at least Hodaf had 1 good weapon and 1 air weapon, whilst I think Crazy Coop had 2 air weapons on both sides.
I think that's the thing as well. Hodaf
I mean,
missed a lot.
you say that we didn't see the flipper do anything other than self-right.
At least lift its own weight back up, though.
I mean,
which
could
is-
Bolt the Blue
that-
do that?
That is kind of the bare minimum that a flipper needs to be able to do. They've been doing that since Series 2.
But there were flippers that couldn't do that.
There were flippers that couldn't do that, but fewer and fewer by the time you reach Series 7.
Still.
But it does make it a competent flipper, though. I mean, at least it's like a nice big flipper as well. It's not like a little tiny one, admittedly.
All right, guys. I am going
I think
to.
I forgot more about Crazy Coop then.
I'm going to wind us into a
And I-
decision. So, are we actually voting on each of these? Is that how we're going to do this? Is that how
Yeah,
fair it
go
is?
for it.
Okay. Very well.
Yep.
We're going to
Yep.
go down a chronological list. Let me get the list back up. Meaning that we start with the wonderful entry being Xbox. Also, can I point out that whenever I say
very-
this, I feel like I'm doing that thing where you control your Xbox by shouting at it. Xbox.
Oh no! If the Xbox series had continued, would there have been a really bad Xbox Connect that you had to control by waving and jumping in the control booth, and it not really working that well?
So make a worse version of the gloves from
Although,
Crustacean.
also, does that mean they have to
Yes.
wire something into it where if you shout Xbox turn off, yes? Also, I'm so sorry to anyone watching ESC on an Xbox One right now.
This is where in the future series, Xbox would have had Jontron on the team.
Yes, thank you. You got my
Xbox.
Xbox thing.
Yes.
Shout out to Jontron. Ah, boy. But yeah, votes on Xbox, guys. Quick fire. Come on, we've got 5 of these. Fuck.
Woke AF Arena.
Wait, what?
I will have it in the arena. But can it be one of the drop zone items?
Oh, so hang on.
Xbox going to the arena.
Wait, hang on a tick. Hold up. So we have under Kilot's treads. We have on the
screws.
On the screws, and now we have drop zone item like Golem was.
Because if that's the case, then yes. If it's actually a competitor, then Pit.
Oh right, okay. So are you going arena or Pit?
I'll put Pit for this case.
Thank God for that, right? Yes, in the Pit for me
fucking
too.
hell,
Thank you. God damn it, Oliver. What are you trying to do?
I think I had a moment there. Hey.
I just felt all the blood rush to my face.
Okay, next one up on the quickfire round. We have platypus at home.
Oh.
Big fish.
We don't know very much about it, Pit.
I'm gonna say Pit because even looking at this is the upgraded version as well. It's on the picture and it doesn't look.
They
that
stole your
great, so I'm still gonna
design.
say Pit.
Yeah, Pit. Oh, is that a 04 then? Because you said
Fuck
Pit
it,
as
yeah,
well.
sure, put 04. We're breaking all the rules today. Hodaf the Bad, the one that Mitch actually wanted to bring. Hodaf the Bad.
Right, I think it's very safe to say my position in the spot hasn't changed, and this is the only one I'm going to give a final argument about. It is a decent robot. It's not terrible. It could self-right. I'm putting it in the arena.
Interestingly, involved in the only battle where the judge's decision was made for stopping the fight for safety reasons. Interestingly.
Yep.
Crazy Coop 88.
Wait, hang on.
No?
Wait.
We haven't
Blimey.
finished this one yet.
I like it. I like the design of it. It's a bit off. I still can't work out what the front's supposed to be technically. I know what is the front. I just don't accept it. But I like it. It's got the flipper's fine. It can self-right. I mean, disc is kind of purposeless, but I'll put it in the arena. Why not?
Yes.
Well, it's going to the arena.
Do you know what? As much as I've said negative things against it, I actually took a D&D character name from Hodaf the Bad, so I'll put it in the arena for that reason.
Oh,
I love it. How did I not know about this?
Well, you know now.
88.
I think it's poor. It's criminally underrated. It did get a few hits in and was unlucky to get taken out by the house robot. And Deadbod is a great robot, which is the successor to this. So I'm gonna say arena.
As much as Deadbod came from this, as much as I like Tom, I cannot put this in the arena. I'm putting it in the Pit.
Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to agree. I don't know. It's just it doesn't have the personality for Off the Bad. It's just sort of box with spinners that died bus nudging into dead metal. So
And
Pit,
of course,
unfortunately.
I'm going to vote on this one as well, and I'm going to say the shelves in home base, but the ones at the back near the doors.
Right next to fire exit.
No, it's made
Yeah,
off the shelves.
Yeah.
So wait, what? Which way you
No,
go?
it's going onto the shelves in home base.
Oh,
And then
right.
Ironheart 88.
Oh, we didn't talk about
We
Ironheart,
didn't, but
actually.
you said all 5, so fuck it.
Right, booking. I'm gonna say Pit for this one as well.
Based on the version that applied for Series 9, I'm gonna go. It looks like they've improved it since, but at the end of the day, it's just another generic live events flipper. It could easily be, Thunderchild, not the Wedge Thunderchild, but the flipper Thunderchild that competes on the UK live scene. It looks very similar. I don't think there's much to distinguish this one.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say Pit probably because it's just nothing that unique about it. It's just flipper. So
Yay, there we go. There we have it. That was the first ever quickfire round we've had on ESC.
I just want
I mean, second, given that we did fairly quick fire at
Sure.
Robonerd.
Okay, yeah, that episode was bizarrely short for like a
5 guest have special.
Can I just say I am proud of myself. I
Well
did
done,
it.
Mitch.
That was fun, Mitch. Actually,
well
so
done,
thank you
Mitch.
for bringing
You
those.
brought 5 robots to a podcast where the rules were specifically to bring 1 robot.
And you brought a robot, that was already in the arena to begin with.
Can we also like send Mitch a certificate for not just breaking the rules, but for fucking proudly doing so?
Oh,
I love this. Oh, I'm happy with. Thank you very
So
much.
before we wind up for the podcast, I'm going to need some help with this one. Shall we have a recap of where everyone went? Oh, I'm going to need a moment.
back at the beginning, then we
A
had
robot.
Damn, a robot. I've actually blanked.
Dragon.
Oh, we had Pendragon. We had Pendragon that went to the arena 2 and 1. Then we had 259H that went to the arena 3 and 0. And then we had all of the robots from Team Crazy 88. ISM went to the pit 3 and 0 and 3. Xbox went to the arena. Went to the pit 1 and 2. Big Fish went to the pit 0 and 3. Hold After Bad went to the arena 3 and 0. Crazy Coupe went to the pit 1 and 2.
Ironheart went 0 and 3.
Ironheart
I remember that
went
one.
0 and 3. God, that was a
What
mouthful.
the fuck happened there?
I will take my leave with that.
So,
All right.
to wind down, thank you very much, Jimjamatic, for being on our podcast for the second time. Did you want to explain to people where they can find you online and what sort of things they can expect from your wonderful slew of channels?
Well, you can find me on YouTube, obviously called Jimjamatic. I upload once in a blue moon. I do have something I need to actually get uploading during this pandemic, so I might as well actually get it done. I do.
You could say a Jimjamatic episode's like a bolt from the blue.
Get out.
An insult. Are you trying to insult?
Oh dear.
So I'm up here on a cake then, you know what happens then. But no, yeah, I just, I'm just about to start series 6 of my retrospective of the old series, and I have all the series, but actually came in quite handy because I have a series on my channel called The Robots That Never Were, which covers robots never made it into the main series. So this was actually quite good research in a way, and now I've seen Big Fish, I need to get this thing public.
This was certainly recording in the time of podcast. COVID. That's the word I needed there. Recording in the time of COVID. The podcast virus. Who remembers? All right, guys. What about us? Where can people find us? Mitch, you're up to the bat.
Right, so you can find me on YouTube under the Orc Corp, and you can find me on Instagram under Scribblock.
Yay! Our Insta when?
I need to update it.
I've just stopped using
Please do.
Instagram at the moment, to be fair. So
It's like I use it, but I don't.
you need to do it as a
anything. I'm like,
Facebook page, yo. You have so many people who are fans of your artwork that I'd love to see it on Facebook.
I did, and then it's really weird. It's like if I have too many pages, I feel overwhelmed.
So Oliver, where can people find you?
I am on Facebook, Team Motte and Bailey, doing beetle weight stuff and potentially ant weight stuff. But as Reira pointed out, we are in the middle of a global pandemic, and I am stuck in Scotland. Kind of at my own choice, but it means that I'm away from all my tools and all my HDPE.
But near where
and
Robot
so
Wars was made,
there
so you
are-
have no excuse.
So there are plans for a Crossblow 2 coming at some point. Things went pretty dismally at Not UE, but that's okay. And I'm working on a replacement that, if things go well, will debut at Battle in the Bird 2. If that happens, and if I get enough time to build anything before then, we'll find out. But if you want to stay up to date with all of that, just go like that page.
I also want to mention something I forgot to mention before, is that both me and Oliver on the recent quiz created by Jevon from World of Woodrow.
We were the Big Bot quiz.
Yep.
So if you go over to the World of Woodrow, you will find that, and it is going to migrate through various different channels. It's going to Sam Elliott 64's channel next, and we're already gearing up for that episode. And then presumably at some point it will come to the ESC podcast.
I want a quizmaster. Every question will be
Reira.
about a DGS bot.
Well, that quiz won't last long then.
Okay.
About as long as Detonator.
Okay. People people can find me when I'm not crying about how mean people are. People can find me on Reira the Bard on Twitter, which is probably my biggest sort of form of communication at the moment. That's my sort of people who want to follow me channel. However, you can also follow what I'm doing BattleBots wise, because I should be in LA right now. But of course, that's been delayed. You can follow that on Nelly the Ellybot, proud member of Team Nelly, for season 5 of BattleBots when that happens. I will be eating many wheels. You can also find my own personal robot stuff. Not that we're updating much at the moment, because again, quite similar to Oliver, we're missing a lot of our parts and tools at the moment to build our new robot Holy Diver. But you can find us on Team Trans-Cendant Robotics, with a hyphen between trans and cendant, because I'm very funny. And yeah, you can just generally find me around Shuntposting, the BattleBots group. I'm a pretty active member of the community, so if you see me, say hi.
We also have a Facebook page, which we will update with ESC related stuff as and when it happens. Sometimes you'll get behind the scenes stuff. Sometimes you'll get polls and quizzes that can help make the episodes. Sometimes you get a bit of a heads up as to when we're airing episodes. It just
Sometimes
depends
things
what happens. But yes, go find us on Facebook.
And of course, I will also be posting up links to our Spotify when each episode goes up. I'll be posting links to do with ESC YouTube videos as well when they go up, all on my Twitter too. So do keep an eye on my Twitter for ESC updates if and when they happen. But yeah, again, thank you very much, James, for being on the podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on for the first time ever. Of course, you've never been on the podcast.
Oh no, it's my first time ever. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. See you all on the flip side. We've got more podcasts to record. So bye.
Bye.